Chairperson for this function, Brigadier Dr. H.O. David, Chief Guest, Honorable Minister Amirthajali, Minister of National Languages and Social Integration, Special Guest, Reverend Dr. Noel Dallas, respected distinguished guests and relatives of Reverend Father David, and all the other guests. Good evening. At the outset, I would like to thank the organizers of this function for requesting me to deliver the keynote address. In the northernmost tip of Sri Lanka, bordering on the coastline, lies the village Tumbale. This is one of the places where the first few Catholic churches were built in the north. In the historical records, it is mentioned that in Point Drew, there was in the year 1634 a church named the Church of Our Lady of Good Voyage. Nallur Swami Gnanapravasar, in his book 25 Years of Catholic Progress, 1893 to 1938, refers to this church as the Tumbale St. Mary's, the oldest church in Poitou. This is the established church to which Reverend Father David and his family belonged. His ancestors for 4 generations worshipped in this church. The land called Margaret, in which the house where this great scholar was born, lies next to this church, separated by a small lane. Even though Father David was born in Tumbale, since his father was a language teacher at St. Patrick's College, Jaffna, he had his education in St. Patrick's College, Jaffna. After completing his London matriculation exams with high honors in English and Latin, he joined the St. Bernard Seminary in Burela in 1926. On the 19th of December 1931, he was ordained as a priest. In 1936, he completed his bachelor's degree from the University of London, offering history, economics and government with a first-class honor. In recognition of the high marks he obtained, he was awarded a gold medal. No student in the past 40 years scored as high marks as he did. Commenting on this remarkable achievement, one of his disciples comments, I quote, "Amirthajali stands unique in Sri Lanka when at the exact age of 29, in June 1936, he obtained his BA Honours First Class in History at the University of London, annexing wherein the gold medal of economics. His marks were the highest in the whole British Commonwealth. He thus eclipsed many future at that time civil servants, CAS personnel, high commissions, ambassadors, and governors of the central banks." In 1936, Father David joined the staff of St. Patrick's College, where he taught history and languages. It was during this time his close affiliation with Nallur Swami Gnanapravasar began. At that time, Swami Gnanapravasar was editing his chief work, the Etymological and Comparative Lexical. I will elaborate on this relationship between these two exceptional scholars later in my speech. In 1938, the University of London offered him a 4-year scholarship, encouraging and allowing him to switch over from European history to Indo-Aryan languages for his master's degree and from there to Dravidian languages for his PhD, which he received in 1952. During his stay in England, he toured the European nations, visiting their universities in Germany, Russia, Austria, Portugal, France, and other nations. He returned to St. Patrick's College to continue as a teacher. At the same time, he was also seriously involved in his research work on Tamil language. Proudly acknowledges that he was one of those fortunate ones to have been tutored by this great mentor. Reverend Father David, in his publications, used his name as Tavidu, going back to the original family name Tavidu Pillai. His original family name Tavidu Pillai was altered into the Anglicized form by dropping the Pillai and changing it into the English form David. But as a person who was immersed in the etymology of words, he changed it back to the original Hebrew pronunciation, Tavidu, which meant the beloved of God. As mentioned earlier, while teaching at St. Patrick's College, Father David continued his research. In fact, he was continuing the work that Nandor Swami Amirthajali started. This he continued till the end of his lifetime. Father David breathed his last breath on the same night that the Jaffna Party's library was burned to ashes. It was an unfortunate coincidence that this great soul should depart from this world. An etymological and comparative lexical of Tamil, Sinhala and Sanskrit is the second part of the language research which he published in 1972. In this work, he further established the theory that was put forth by Swami Amirthajali about the Proto-Dravidian tongue. He moves forward in his theory by proving that this Proto-Dravidian tongue was the language of the ancient Sri Lanka. Reverend Father Benedict Silva, professor at the National Seminary, Ambitya, says, I quote, Reverend Father Tavidu, who was a historian and archaeologist, years before he became a linguist, had drawn out a map of southern Europe and southwestern Asia, indicating the 9 ancient cultures wherein which seems to have interacted on one another of old. From the close connection that scholars have detected between culture and language, he thinks that these 9 languages have influenced one another to a very considerable extent, at least by mutual loans of words. Reverend Father David, through his work, tries to bring to light the connection between the Dravido-Sumerian and the 2 greatest linguistic groups, namely the Semitic and the Indo-European, in which Sanskrit is one. His analysis of the root words tries to prove that roughly 1/3 of the Sanskrit words are of Dravidian origin. He also proves that 54% of the Sinhala words, especially the roots of the older nouns, adjectives and verbs, belong to the ancient tongue, namely Eluva, which was spoken by all the inhabitants of Sri Lanka. This tongue is proved as one of the 20 Dravidian tongues. The features of Prakriti, Sanskrit and Pali, which developed rapidly into this language, became more predominant with the arrival of the Buddhist missionaries from North India. Thus, the words, expressions, and grammatic forms and syntactic structures blended into this ancient language, Eluva, to bear forth the Sinhala language. Apart from the lexicon, Reverend Father David has written many research papers, small pamphlets, and newspaper articles, most of which are lost to the people of Jaffna. The continuous war and the numerous displacements have deprived us of these valuable texts. It is distressing to note that in Jaffna Public Library, not a single work of this paradise is to be found now. But I am sure that they are in many of the libraries outside Jaffna, and many scholars have been subscribers for his publication. From the few of these works that I have been able to track down, there is one predominant line of thought which should be a guiding light to us all Sri Lankans. Based on his study and research of many languages, Father David has proved in his lifetime work that all Sri Lankans belong to the same ethnic group and that they worship the same God in ancient times. In 1979, in his foreword to his work, Who is this Tamila Murugan? He states, I quote, the purpose of this booklet is to recall to all inhabitants of Eluva land, that is Sri Lanka, back to the ancient unity that reigned to 1200 BC. Though Father David toiled all his life to establish a theory about the truth of the people of this country and their language, it has neither been popularized nor the study has not been taken up for further advancement. This, I would say, among other reasons, lies in the complexity of the writing style of Father David. His work is a blend of narrative prose in dialogue form and research writing. Anyone who wishes to embark on a study of Father David's work should fortify themselves with patience and diligence. A knowledge of the few Indo-European languages and the Dravidian languages would be an added tool in understanding his work. The establishment of this foundation, I hope, would help promote linguistic scholars from here and abroad to try to take up from where Father David left. It is indeed unfortunate that Father David never found a disciple as his guru, Swami Jnanaprasad, to carry on his work. I wish to conclude my address with a prayer Father David had for the beautiful people, that is, all the people of Sri Lanka in the beautiful land. May he direct us, all Sri Lankans, in the path of truth, peace, and happiness. Thank you.